Now, 2 years ago, Decca Aitkenhead was enjoying another morning on her dream Caribbean holiday when, in an instant, her world changed forever after her partner Tony died while saving their son from drowning. Decca's book, All at Sea, which she shares her story, is out today, and she's joining me now in the studio. It's lovely to have you. It's an overwhelming story. To be honest, I don't know how you're still standing. You've told the story here. Take me back to that day.
I mean, it began just like every other day of the holiday, very peacefully. Tony took a cup of coffee down to the beach, which was just at the bottom of our garden. We were in a little cottage on the beach. And our son, who was 4, Jake, went with him. He was still in his pyjamas and just was paddling at the water's edge. But you can get something called a riptide, or they call it an undertow, where the sea is much deeper than it would ordinarily be. And so Jake just took a couple of steps and found himself out of his depth and was immediately sucked out. And Tony swam to him and managed to hold him afloat, but couldn't fight the tide to get back to the beach. Tony wasn't a particularly strong swimmer. And I saw all of this and swam to them, and I managed to take Jake from him and swim Jake back to the beach. But when we turned, Tony had been sucked further out to sea, and 3 fishermen were swimming to him, and they managed to get to him, and people from the houses on either side were kind of throwing out life rafts and rings, and they got a float to him, and we pulled him in with the fishermen holding him. And I thought that he was fine because he hadn't gone under. It had been terrifying, the whole experience, but there he was on the beach. We thought we'd saved his life, but he had inhaled too much seawater while he was in the water, and he'd died while we were pulling him ashore.
I mean, it just must have felt so surreal, almost like a movie. I don't mean to sound trite, but it's like it's not really like it's happening to you.
No, your mind, it's an extraordinary thing. Your mind is having these twin things where, on the one hand, your conscious mind knows that this is happening because you're seeing it in front of your eyes, and there's a huge part of your brain that's absolutely refusing to accept that this is happening. And even at the point in the commotion when there are people trying to revive him, and a friend of mine is performing CPR, and when I saw her put her fingers to his pulse and look up and shake her head at the men standing around him, even at that point,
you can't accept it.
It's an extraordinary thing. Your brain will not accept what's in front of your eyes. And I remember thinking, she doesn't know what she's doing. She's just completely misunderstood. Of course he's about to sit up. She's had medical training. I know this woman involved. I mean, there was no ambiguity about what was happening in front of my eyes, and yet, your brain doesn't accept it.
It's a defence thing.
It's an absolute defence, and it takes days and then weeks and then months. And sometimes I'm not even sure, even sitting here now, I think, do I really believe it's true? I've written a book about it. It's been nearly 2 years.
I was saying that to you earlier. When you talk about something so much and then when you put it in a book, does it feel like you've sort of telling a story about somebody else, really? Does it feel unreal?
I worried about that before writing about the book. I thought, is this going to make it like a piece of writing? Because I'm a writer. And this can't be just another piece of writing. And in some ways, there is an element where that's unavoidable. But on the other hand, had I not written the book, I worry that there were things... It was such an intense period, and you're in such a state of complete disarray, emotionally and mentally. And I'm glad now that we have, particularly for my children...
Well, I was going to say, for Jake and Joe, they've got a record. Because I know you yourself, you lost your mother when you were very young, and you've forgotten a lot about her.
It was so extraordinary. After she died, I was just 3 years older than Jake is now. I was 9, and a family friend said, you must write down everything you remember about her. I thought, what a ridiculous suggestion. I'm not going to forget anything about my mum. By the time I was a teenager, the whole lot had gone. And so I very much want the boys, because they will never know their father, they won't remember him. They will always have to rely on other people's memories.
Exactly.
And so I wanted to just get everything down as fast as I could.
I mean, you're doing incredibly well, because after you finished writing this book, you then received some other life-changing news.
Yeah, that did feel beyond anything that...
Well, just terribly unfair. You must have just wanted to...
Yeah, I finished the book, quite coincidentally, I finished it on the anniversary of Tony's death, the first anniversary, which was May last year, and then I went back to work in June, and towards the end of June I discovered I had breast cancer. And so we felt like we'd just got a toehold back in the world of normality. I'd just gone back to work, and I felt as if the kids were just about sort of stabilised, and Jake was about to complete his first year of school. And then we were just plunged off the edge of the universe again into this whole new, I want to say the word catastrophe, because that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
You know, it isn't a catastrophe.
It's not a
doctors
catastrophe because you've had the all clear.
Exactly.
So the future's looking great.
It's been a bitterly difficult year again. But
how have the boys coped with all of this?
Gosh, that's a question that I can probably tell you the answer in about 20 years. That's partly what's so difficult. The whole time you're trying to monitor what's happening, you're trying to manage them and help them, and you sometimes think that you're doing quite well, and at other times you think, oh God, I've got that completely wrong. And the truth of the matter is, it will be, you know, there'll be grown-ups before I can answer that question. I think that their courage in the face of what's happened to them has just been breathtaking and humbling, and their capacity for joy is...
Well, you live for them.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
You have to just
of course
keep
you do.
fighting for them.
Of course.
Does life feel like it's kind of... there's no normal, but... Is it back to some kind of semblance of...
It's so funny, isn't it?
Do you feel happy?
I think, no, I could not say that. That would be... but I do feel that what we have been through has been so testing and so difficult that it's hard to believe that things aren't going to get better.
But
so
they
in
do.
that sense, I think, you know, whatever comes next has got to be easier than what we've been through. And if we've survived this, then we're quite a strong family now, I hope.
Absolutely. Well, it's all in this book, which I'm halfway through. Oh. I've had a good old week, but I'm reading it, so I will finish it, and it is a very, very emotional read. So if you have a chance, go and buy it. Thank you so much for coming. I'm going to talk to you for much longer than that.